So, sitting here today with Doug Robinson, the CEO and founder of LGCY Power. Doug, how are you?
I'm doing well, Norm. Great to be with you today.
Yeah, you too. So, you're at your headquarters there in Utah, huh?
We are, yeah, here in Utah. It's a beautiful day outside. Couldn't be better. Couldn't be happier.
Nice. And of course, LGCY Power now is your baby from back in the day, but now it's the largest privately held residential solar sales company in the whole US, huh?
It is. It's been quite a journey since 2014 when we decided to take this entrepreneurial jump. I call it a jump because there's oftentimes fear associated with doing that, but it's been an absolutely unbelievable ride.
Absolutely. And you guys have a really good culture, which we'll talk about, and some great people working with you and for you. I'd love to rewind even further. And if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, like where you grew up and your childhood and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, sure, Norm. My sort of growing up story, I was born and raised in a small town in northern Utah, Logan, Utah. And it was kind of I call it the classic, um, all my buddies, we'd go out and play sports and go from baseball to football to basketball, you name it, tennis. Pickleball wasn't there at the time, but I'm sure now we'd play pickleball or whatever. But we just had a blast growing up. And, it's interesting. A lot of business principles, I believe I picked up through my youth and through youth sports, learning what teamwork is, and learning about competition and learning the principles of first one on the court, last one off the court. That's what sets you apart. And the same thing applies with business, learning how to overcome challenges and obstacles. And so what growing up was like for me. I had two wonderful parents that took great care of us as kids. We always had enough, but it was never too much. Kind of a very middle-class family, and childhood was great for me. And, we sort of grew up through those years, and then went on to play a little bit of college football. It's a couple small junior colleges here close to home. And, that was a great experience as well, kind of learning from the one level of sports to a next level of sports, how you do that. Just like in business, the same things happen with, changing times as your business grows and develops and hits new.
There's always a next level, right? There's always something to adjust to, and you could be that, you could dominate in one level, and then you get to the next level, you're completely humbled, huh?
You're exactly right. Exactly right. And I saw that in sports all growing up. And, as I transitioned, I served an LDS mission in Romania. So I lived there from the time I was 19 to 21. I learned Romanian fluently, and that was an incredible experience. So to live in Romania and the country Moldova, spent some time there and serving my church, and man, it was a fantastic experience, real growing experience for me of learning more about myself at sort of that 19 to 21 age. It's an impressionable time for sure.
I bet. And that really, there's a lot of good stuff I'd love to examine that you just mentioned. But, from 19 to 21, those are the years a lot of people are just being knuckleheads and off partying or spending money that they don't have. And, maybe the college fraternity or partying experience. But you really actually did something totally different with those years, huh?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was a focus on, who am I? Who do I want to be? What is my belief set? My belief in God, and how can I, serve my higher being, and what can I go do? And it was an opportunity to kind of get outside of myself. And at those impressionable ages, I paid my own way to go there. I saved pretty much my whole life to go and have this experience. And man, it just stretched me in ways you can't imagine. When you show up at 19 years old in the middle of a foreign country,
yeah,
you had 8 weeks of language training, and you're expected to just be there and go talk to people. It was definitely a challenge, but one of the most rewarding things I've ever done in my life.
I totally hear you on that. And I've had, similar experiences, as like getting out there in the world and just sort of being dropped in the middle of a different country and culture and language and just the chaos of it all. And you have to adjust. I find when you do that, of course, it's a shock to the system when you jump into it, but you really see the growth and the changes in yourself when you come back and you compare yourself to your friends or your past life, huh?
That's right. We talk about our mission statement here at Legacy Power is to create an extraordinary customer experience while becoming the best version of ourselves and helping others do the same. And it's this idea of becoming that's so powerful to me. And I think that was the first time in my life where I really saw this, and it kind of clicked with me of like, wait, this is about progression. This is about becoming and growing and stretching ourselves. And the analogy of a muscle, you have to break it down in order for it to come back stronger. And I think that's the same with us as humans in our lives. And that was the first time I really saw that, where it nearly broke me. But a couple of years later, I come back to your point, and I was definitely a better version of myself.
Oh, that's interesting. And then you did college after that when you came back?
Yeah, I did a college a semester before, played a little football before, went for 2 years, came back, played another year of football, and did my education at Snow College and then Utah State University, studied business. And at that point, I needed to make money. My high school sweetheart, she was actually my first kiss at 14 years old, believe it or not. We wanted to get married, and we were young and dumb probably, but we wanted to get married, and I was broke. So I started knocking on doors. A good friend of mine said, as a student athlete, I had enough to pay for my books and tuition. That was about it. And literally had nothing else. And a good friend of mine said, hey, why don't you come knock on doors selling satellite TV, Dish Network and DirecTV. And I said, all right, yeah, I need a job, so let's do it. And that was my introduction to commission and commission-based sales. And I never looked back. I mean, that was just the beginning.
And that's about as good of a motivation as you can, huh? You're out there every day. I know I read a couple things that it was super cold in the winters and you were, struggling from one sale to the next, but the motivation of, hey, I need to afford a ring and marry my high school sweetheart, that's as good as it gets.
Yeah, it really was. I wanted to provide, and I wanted to provide a life and a certain quality of living for my sweetheart, and as well for my future kids. At that point we didn't have kids, but really wanted to have a strong foundation. And so for me, I just found that direct sales and this idea of no capped potential, and you're not an employee with a lid on what you can accomplish or how high you can go or what you can create, that our ability to contribute, our ability to create value is really what determines our income. And if we can increase our human life value and our ability to create value, then we can increase our earning potential. And so for me, it was a real wake-up call into the world of business and sales and the potential out there.
That's fantastic. And I'm assuming she said yes, by the way.
She did say yes. And we have 4 beautiful kids now. And, we go through our ups and downs just like any couple, but she's definitely the love of my life since the time I was 14. So.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. One thing you mentioned a couple times, talking about your upbringing and your college, you said you didn't have a lot of money and you were, you had enough to eat and go to school and books, but not a lot else. I find that people, and you probably see this in sales, people that have that background, maybe they weren't in desperate poverty, but maybe they were struggling a little or lower middle class, however you want to define it, but they had to hustle. They were cognizant of money and the value of money and the value of work. I find those people, for some reason, I'm really drawn to those people later in life because they never lose that chip on their shoulder where they don't take things for granted and they're not afraid of work. And I'm a big believer in work ethic.
Yeah. Oh, there's no question. And I think it's really what I think you're talking about is perspective. One of our key leadership principles here at Legacy is respect different perspectives. And I've just found that anytime, in life where there's, challenge or conflict, typically it's about perspective and communication. Yeah. And, I've just found that if we really focus on what is the perspective, and sometimes coming from humble beginnings or whatever can create a certain vision and help you keep a certain perspective that, I think we all need to try to see things from different people's shoes.
Yeah, and that's, of course, that's more important than ever these days as, people chip away on Facebook and social media about politics and this and that. And then I keep in mind that if people were face to face, they wouldn't say or act 90% of those ways.
Yeah, man, it's really sad to see some of the stuff that happens today in social media. But I think if we could focus on what brings us together more than what separates us,
Yeah.
what unifies us as a country, a world, whatever it might be, find the
Hmm.
common themes and really focus on those things rather than focusing on what makes me different than you. I
Yeah.
think the world would be in a much better place.
Yeah, and I think it is a lot more in reality than if you buy into the reality or perception that you see if you just scroll through Facebook all day. I know you're way too busy to do that, but I always find it interesting on Facebook, the vitriol and everyone's arguing back and forth and just getting crazy. Then you go over to Instagram and there's none of it. Everyone's just doing their thing, posting pictures of their lunch. So I prefer the Instagram world over the Facebook world.
I like it. I like it. And I do love seeing good lunch pictures and good food. A little bit of a foodie. So,
So tell me about fast forward a little bit to 2014 when you had this vision of legacy and what you could bring to the market with the solar company.
yeah. So throughout my career, I was involved in direct sales. I sold different products, home security, home automation systems at one point, Dish Network and Direct TV. And so different products. And what I found is that we had a really interesting model that was built around building people.
Hmm.
And I loved it. And I loved the people aspect of what I was doing. We'd build teams and typically younger entrepreneurs, and many of them, it was door to door beginning of recruiting typically young college age kids to go out and knock on doors and sell a product and teach them these principles. But I also found in that's a very impressionable time of life where people are looking for mentors. They're
Hmm.
looking for who they want to be when they grow up, if they should go this route or that route, and they're making career choices. And I found that it was a great opportunity to coach these youngsters in what to do with their money and how to live their lives and who they want to be as people. It's really that kind of time. And so I fell in love with the coaching and I call it a people mill, a way
Hmm.
to grow these young entrepreneurs. And throughout my career, we finally got to a place in 2014 where the solar industry was starting to take shape. At that time, Solar City was one of the dominant players in the space. They owned, I don't know, 50 or 60% of the market share. Their stock went from $8 to 80 and then back down to 20. So it was kind of the market figuring out if solar was going to be here to stay.
Yeah.
And I really looked at it and said, you know what? I believe renewable energy is going to win. I
Hmm.
believe this is a long game. I don't think it's a short game. It's a long game. And I want to go all in on solar. And it was then that I said, hey, this business model that we have of, attracting talent, training up this talent, and a door-to-door model can really work in the solar industry. Many customers really want a consultative style sale.
Yeah.
Making a purchase like that in their home, they want a consultant to go through and really explain what the whole process is. It's complex. Every home is unique. Every home is shaped differently, where the panels are going to go and, how it all works. Everybody's energy profile is different. So that consultative approach, we really found inside the home was the perfect place for the sale to take place.
Hmm.
And so, we set off on building an army to grow and scale and help customers to go solar. And it's been a great run.
Absolutely, it has. Yeah, and you guys had some humble beginnings when you started, of course. With tell me about your first quote unquote office when you founded Legacy.
Oh, it was interesting. So I flew out. I was in the home security space, and I sent an email to Sunrun. Sunrun's the largest publicly traded solar company in America. At the time, they were number 2 or 3, and I sent an email to them. Surprisingly enough, the email went something like this. It was, I think, partners@sunrun.com, and I said, "Hey, Sunrun, my name's Doug. My partners and I, we think we can build a national scale sales force." for you. Let me know if you're interested. And they got back to us, and, from one level to another. And suddenly a few weeks later, I was in San Francisco overlooking the bay on Market Street, the financial district, and overlooking the bay there, and in this conference room with Lynn Jurich and Ed Fenster, who's chairman of Sunrun. And I told him, I said, look, I can build a sales organization that scans the entire country for you if you're interested. And they said, and it's just you? Well, no, I have a few partners. And they said, so you and a few partners, but you have an office? And I'm like, well, not yet, but we can get one. And somehow we got this contract with them, this agreement where they said, we're going to take a shot on you guys.
Wow.
And we came home, and our next day, our first business meeting was in a little restaurant because they had Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
And, we started looking for real estate and get a little office space and go from there. But things took shape rapidly and quickly. And we were able to scale very, very quickly. And now we sell solar in 40 states across the country.
And that first meeting in San Francisco, I actually used to live out there, so I know the area you're talking about on Market Street pretty well. With Sunrun, how old were you at the time?
Let's see, I was probably mid-30s.
Okay. Were you pretty intimidated or nervous about that, or were you up to the challenge?
For sure. I mean, here I am, a door-to-door salesman for a long time, and that's been my career in direct sales and building sales teams. From a small town in Logan, Utah, and now I'm in San Francisco on the 28th floor of what used to be the Visa headquarters, and big conference room, and talk about intimidation. But what's interesting, there's a lesson there, Norm, I just approached them the same way that I approached thousands and thousands and thousands of customers when I knocked on their doors. Yeah. It's intimidating to go up to a complete stranger, knock on their door, and pitch them a product. It's very, very intimidating. And I think that skill set of knocking on doors was the same one. I knocked on Sunrun's door and said, hey, I'm here, and this is what I have to offer. And we were selling ourselves and our ability to produce and create value. And we approached it the same way and had a favorable outcome. And so I think there's something to be said there of every youngster, I feel, can benefit. Anybody can benefit from learning to sell.
Yep.
I don't think it matters what career you take, because I think that doctors have to sell their patients, and I think that parents are selling their children, and I think that we're all salespeople. Yeah. Sometimes it gets a bad rap, but at the very core, it's about learning to communicate with other human beings, and enhancing that skill set, I think, is absolutely crucial to long-term success.
Yeah, it's interesting you said that, and I totally agree. Where sales gets a bad rap, we think some guy in a flammable, cheap suit, selling used cars that are going to break down when they go off the lot or something. But at its best, it's really getting on their side of the kitchen table. Let's say the consumer side, exploring problems, finding solutions, being authentic. And they also say, I love this definition: a sale is a transference of enthusiasm. Yeah. And I love that you see it the same way. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think exchange, right? Like, salespeople are creating exchange. Mm-hmm. And as long as there's no coercion or manipulation or lying or deceit, as long as that's not happening from a transaction, both parties walk away more wealthy, because you're exchanging, and that exchange is wealth creation. So I look at salespeople as wealth creators. Mm-hmm. Not as necessarily the stereotypical what people think of, a slimy salesperson or whatever.
Yeah, and at best, you should be counting the dollars you're going to save them, not counting the dollars of your commission. That's what you should always have in your head.
Exactly.
Speaking of Sunrun, I know one of your mentors and friends over there gave you some sage advice early on, saying success often comes down to three things: talent, tenacity, and timing. I know that's one of your favorites. So how did those all align for you with Legacy?
Yeah, great question. And thanks to Paul Winowski for that. Give him a shout out. He was the president of Sunrun at the time, and he just gave me some counsel, and it's one of those one-liners that stuck with me. But I think those three things: number one, The tenacity part, talk about that one. It's a fun word. Tenacity to me comes back to my youth of playing sports, like we talked about, of, on the court, you've got to have a tenacity. It's a hustle. It's a grit. It's a determination. It's when things get hard, are you going to, kind of dig deep inside yourself to power through? And business is definitely that way, Norm. Throughout the 6 years we've been running Legacy, there have been ups and downs and sideways and backwards and forwards and everywhere in between. And had, Luke Toone, my business partner, and I, and our other fantastic employees here, had we not had tenacity, I don't know that we would have survived some of the ups and downs. I don't know that we would have. And that grit, that tenacity of hanging in there, I think applies. And I think it applies to anybody struggling. Like, don't give up.
Yeah.
Don't slow down, keep pushing through, and tomorrow's another day and you can succeed. And all of us were born to be great. I think that's all in that word tenacity.
Yep. I love it.
And the next piece is talent. Like, there's got to be some level of talent. And I think talent and skill, they're not the same thing, but certainly you've either got to work really hard to develop your skill set, or maybe you're born with some level of talent. But for success, there's got to be some level of talent. And I think you'll find that in what you're passionate about. I got passionate about renewable energy and changing the world and making it a greener place. And I think that passion has really been helpful, but you've got to have some level of talent to find that success. And then, the last piece where it talks about timing is, I absolutely believe we timed it perfectly.
Yeah.
You can look at any industry. Timing is a part of success. And, I don't believe in luck, but I do believe in timing. So, timing, like, what's the market doing? We're at less than 4% of our country of qualified homes that could have solar, only 4. And we're changing the way right now that we produce and we consume power.
Yeah.
And that's going to continue to evolve in my mind. And so I think this solar disrupting the way that the world produces and consumes power, and major disruption, is bigger than anything we'll see in our lifetimes.
I agree. Yeah.
And being a part of that, from a timing perspective, is a great business opportunity, but it's a great time to get involved in, stopping or slowing global warming and the negative impacts that are happening there.
And it's interesting with what you say about timing, because you didn't become a part of it. You're one of the initiators. You were in before it was popular, before there was quote unquote easy money to be made, or everyone was jumping into it. And in business, that's exactly when you want to be in, right? I sort of use the surfing analogy. I don't know if you've ever surfed, but if you wait until there's a wave and try to jump up and ride it, you're already too late. You have to sort of be out there and watch the horizon and see the waves start to build and form, and the ebbs and flows. And then when you see it's your time, you just have to go for it and start paddling like hell and jump,
Oh, I love that analogy. I'm not a great surfer. I have tried it. I'm not great at catching the wave, but I need some work there. But wonderful analogy. I think it applies very, very, very well to business. I love that, Norm.
Yeah, and me and you both. I just pretend I know how to surf, but I'm good at wiping out. That's about it, So with Legacy Power, you guys have been highly lauded for best companies to work for, a finalist for Entrepreneur of the Year in Utah. You've been written up in Forbes magazine, a whole list of accolades. A lot of it, of course, comes down to the three things we talked about, but a lot of it comes down to culture. And you guys very carefully craft and invest in your culture. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, culture is, I would say, a buzzword in business right now. What is culture? And sometimes I feel like some businesses really understand it and really nail it, and some don't. I hope we're nailing it, but it's a work in progress, and it's constantly evolving. But culture isn't just, if you have a ping pong table at the office, or it's not if you have a snack room or something like that. Sometimes I think people think, oh, that's a great culture. Culture is found in 1,000 little things. And really at the core of it, Norm, I think it's the way we interact with one another.
Mm.
How do we, when I come to work or anybody else comes to work, what do they feel?
Mm-hmm.
What do they feel from, everything, both the physical environment, what languages are on the walls, what quotes are on the walls, what message is getting out there, what are the core beliefs and principles? That's one small piece. But how are you greeted?
Mm-hmm.
Do people smile at one another and take just a moment to understand how the other employees are doing? Do people understand that, there's a great book, Leadership and Self-Deception. It talks about being in the box. Do we see our other coworkers as people, or do we see them as objects to accomplish our mission or to step over to climb a ladder or something else? Are we really in this understanding we're all human beings? We all have our own challenges, our own struggles, our own strengths and weaknesses. And how can we help one another become the best versions of ourselves? And I think that human interaction at its very core is really what drives culture more than anything else. And so we really try to talk about that. We really try to talk about those things and encourage people to talk and to grow and to better themselves. Because if we can unite around this, how are we becoming? And you're going to help me become my best self, and I'm going to help you, Norm, become your best self. And we're aligned in that. Now, all of a sudden, if somebody has a deadline that gets missed or something, we're approaching it from, hey, what's going on? How can I help you become the best version of yourself? And we all know that we have each other's best interest in mind. I think that creates a positive climate and a culture where people can feel safe to come in every day and do their job. So that's kind of my theory on it, Norm, and how I think about culture.
That's incredible. I mean, culture is one of those things so hard to define. And I absolutely love your quote. Hey, it's not a ping pong table in a snack room and, casual Fridays. That's not culture. That's window dressing, right? But I think when you were talking about that, and you're talking about how to maximize your potential as a human being and help and encourage others reach that, I thought instantly of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Do you remember that back in school?
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
And at the, there's food, water, shelter, safety, but at the very top, there's self-actualization. And that's really when you're becoming the best version of yourself and the best human being you can become. And that always leads to positive results in other people's lives. And of course, you're big on charity and helping others and foundations and going to, making changes in people's lives. Solar is just sort of the tool that you're using to do that, I think. So maybe that's the culture. You're not a solar company. You're you're a people-centric company that changes lives who happens to sell solar.
Norm, you said it better than I even could. We don't really we don't really call ourselves a solar company. That's, like you said, that's just the product we happen to be selling, and we're passionate about it. We believe it's making the world a better place. But absolutely right, we are a people business. The assets that we have are our people, period. And part of that mission statement is create an extraordinary customer experience. We want an extraordinary experience for our salespeople, for our staff members, as well as for the customers that actually buy the solar. And so we have multiple different customers here, and we really treat it that way. We believe every employee has a choice whether they work with me or work with somebody else. And I want them to be able to make that choice every single day with confidence that, they're working with a company that cares about them as a person, that they're not just a number, they're not just an employee, but we really want what's best for them.
Oh, that's fantastic. Really appreciate your time. This is amazing. I would love to end it with 3 questions. I always ask my guests on the podcast here 3 questions. So I know you're a big sports guy, and a lot of who you are became from coaches and trainers and sports philosophy. So who are some of the leaders that you've looked up to and learned from in sports or in business?
Great question. There's many. I'll maybe highlight just 2 quick ones off the top of my head. Urban Meyer's book, Above the Line, is fantastic.
Mm.
Urban Meyer caught my attention. I'm from Utah. He was a coach at Utah and had amazing success here. But quick background, and I'll probably butcher some of it, but he was at Bowling Green, took him to a winning season, came to Utah, took Utah to a BCS game, the only one Utah's ever been to. Went down to Florida, had amazing success there. Had a great run with Tim Tebow, won a couple national titles, went up to Ohio State, had amazing success there. Sanctions his first year, but had a perfect season. And I mean, this guy is a winner, and he talks about culture in his book Above the Line and how you create an above the line culture. And he described it in football. He's recruiting athletes. Why come play for Urban Meyer versus another coach? And it's very, very competitive. And he talked about this culture of how he did it and how he creates an above the line culture. So that's one coach that sort of stood out to me that I've gained a lot from. Mm-hmm. And then Coach Wooden is another one. Coach Wooden's Pyramid of Success. Just Google that and take a look at it.
Yep.
But competitive greatness, he talks about, that's the top of his triangle. Enthusiasm and industriousness are the corners. And then the top of the pyramid is competitive greatness, being at your best when your best is needed. And I just love that. And going to the basics and how he taught the basics and the fundamentals and really mastered the game. And, his career, I don't know how many, 10 national titles or something, 7 in a row.
It was insane, right? I mean, totally unprecedented. Yeah.
Yeah. So just his philosophy and some of his books, it's something that I've been able to take these principles they've applied, directly apply them to my business and see success. So those are two quick coaches I'd call out, and some of their literature that people could go and study.
Yeah, John Wooden I know very well, and just incredible. But I'm actually gonna read Above the Line. I just wrote that down. All right, here's a good one for you. What piece of advice would you give your younger self? You're 18, 19, 17, 20, whatever it is. What would you tell yourself then?
That is a great question. My younger self, I would tell to really understand that leadership develops daily, not in a day. To be patient with the process. The 21-year Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, great book, talks about that you don't become overnight. And I think at my young age, I didn't understand that, the compound effect, another great book, that doing small things every single day over a period of time will lead to great results. And it can just be small things, 1% better daily gets you to 100% better, over 100 days. Those types of things of just understanding there's time is on your side right now. Don't waste it. Just every day have a consistent desire to get better and improve and grow. I wonder if I would have really understood that, if that would have made an impact, and I think it would have.
Yeah, and I think it already has. We never get it 100% right. We're never perfect, but it's a journey, right? And you are where you are, but there's always tomorrow. And like you said, I know you're a voracious reader and you study people's daily habits, and you could completely change your life in 30 days or 45 or whatever it is, just by adopting the right habits and routines. And so it's never too late to change and implement these things. That's fantastic. All right. And last question, Doug. What is one massive goal that you have in mind? Maybe you haven't shared it with everyone, but for Legacy Power?
Yeah. So one massive goal, I think the massive goal for me, Norm, it doesn't come in terms of dollars and cents or market cap or a certain outcome. Many times businesses say, I want to sell my company, or I want to take my company public. That's the next step. Or, these certain outcome driven goals where it's okay, this is what we're setting out to do. And if we do it, we succeeded. But if we don't, we don't. I don't really look at it that way. We want to continue to grow and operate a very successful business that's financially successful, driving healthy EBITDA. But not only that, really the most important part is changing lives. We want to continue to impact and change lives. We want to continue to help people become. We want to continue to innovate on our software to drive sales enablement. That's a big piece of our business, is software development, in making it easier for our salespeople in the field, in the home, and for the customer to choose going solar. And we want to continue to evolve and grow our software platforms while continuing to build a fantastic culture that retains great talent. And I think if we stay really, really focused on that and on our mission of becoming the best versions of ourselves, I think the outcomes just sort of naturally are the byproduct, versus saying, oh, this is our goal and target. And so really staying focused on the foundational principles of, growth and development, and continuing to scale and do it while helping others succeed and those around us. That's really what our focus is and what our goals are, and what I want, all of our employees to be focused on. Don't, back to Coach Wood, and stay focused on the basics. Mm-hmm. These are the basics. This is what got us here. If we continue to execute and refine those, the natural byproduct will be growth and success in other ways in the business.
And that's great, because it's sustainable. It's a balance. It's not some milestone. Ooh, when I make $1 million, I'm going to be happy. Ooh, when I have 5 beach houses, I'm going to be happy. When I go public with my company or sell it for this amount, it's finding a daily balance instead of looking for some far off goal that's, that when you reach it one day, you probably just set a new goal and you won't even rest. So that's pretty inspiring. Doug, I really appreciate your time. I got a lot out of this. I'm proud to call you a friend, and this is some really great information. So I look forward to sharing it with a lot of people.
Hey, we love your podcasts. Me and other colleagues around here, we love your podcast. We love listening to you, Norm. And I think it's an amazing platform that you have here. And I think you're helping what our mission statement is, making people the best versions of themselves and helping them to do that. So I appreciate what you do as well.
All right. Thanks so much. Have a great day, huh?
Yep. Bye-bye.